I searched self-love on Instagram this morning, and it's got over 30 million hashtags. And yet, if I tell people just initially that I work with self-love, I get quite a mixed reaction. Some people are really into it, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's a bit vain, it's a bit narcissistic, that's a bit ego, a bit full of yourself. And I'm like, you have to understand what self-love is. Yes, it can be taken to that place, because any kind of belief or idea can be taken to a bad place. We know this. But actually, self-love is not narcissistic or full of yourself or full of your ego. It's actually the foundation, I believe, of happiness. And every part of your life starts with how you feel about yourself. Okay? For me, I truly, truly believe that self-love saved me. And I believe fully without it, I probably wouldn't be here right now. And that probably sounds quite melodramatic, but it's the truth. 3 years ago now, coming up, there was an evening where I was on the bedroom floor sobbing my heart out. I was broken, I was lost, I was completely at the end of a very long tether. My marriage was coming to an end. I had told him 13 months previously that it was done, it was over, and it took that time for him to move out. So for 13 months we were living together, even though we were not together. And as you can imagine, that was incredibly difficult, to the point that it led me to have a real impact on my physical health. And I ended up with stress-related IBS, I ended up with covered in eczema, ended up in counselling. At the same time, our finances were so tight that I would go to the cash machine and I would pray. I'd be like, please, please, please. And 9 times out of 10, it said insufficient funds. I had 3 children. I was getting to a point where I was terrified of where our life was going, but was also too scared to make a change, because that was even scarier. This was really crappy situation to be in, but it was knowable. I kind of knew pretty much what was going to happen from day to day. If I was on my own with 3 kids, that was terrifying. So I was stuck in my head. I couldn't move forward, but I couldn't stay where I was either. So it got to a point where I was literally on the floor, sobbing, broken, had enough. And I shouted up to the universe. I said, help me, please, somebody help me. I can't do this anymore. And at that moment, I had another unfolding of my awakening, because I felt my heart burst open. Not literally, don't worry, it's not alien. I felt it burst open, and this light filled me. And this voice outside of me said, it's time to love yourself. And at that moment, I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know how things were going to get better. I didn't know what the answer was. But I knew I was going to be okay. I knew in that moment that whatever happened, I had the strength within me to deal with it, and that I was going to be okay. So I truly believe that without that moment of me surrendering, without that moment of me asking for help, without that realisation and epiphany that self-love was the answer, I don't know what would have happened. I really don't. So when I say it saved me, it's not melodramatic, it really is the truth. Self-love, like I say, I think a lot of people, hashtags and books and magazine articles, people talk about it a lot, but it's important to understand what it actually is. So self-love is being kind to yourself no matter what. It's giving yourself the care and the nurturing and the compassion to be your own best friend, no matter what is going on around you. It is to be emotionally, mentally, physically and spiritually looking after yourself, no matter what is happening around you, who's in your life, what situations that you're in. You always are there for yourself. That's what self-love is to be your best friend. And so many of us are not. The reason I wrote this book is because through my coaching and through my psychic readings, I was realising more and more and more that I was not alone. That actually, there were hundreds of people that didn't like themselves, if not thousands. People that really struggled with their own self-worth, their self-esteem, their confidence, people that were really struggling to accept themselves for who they were. And the more that I understood that and the more that I saw it, I have this thing in me that I'm like, I can't just sit there and watch this and not do anything about it. So I knew that I had to start to talk about my own experiences, because literally until that moment 3 years ago, I didn't like who I was at all. My self-esteem was lower than an elephant had sat on me and then steamroller had run over me. I had the worst opinion of myself ever. Ever. My self-worth was on the floor. And that in itself has led me to make some interesting choices, shall we say, in my life. It certainly led me to some decisions that I could, in hindsight, really, really regret. But I know that it all happened for a reason. I believe the things I have been through have happened for me and have allowed me then to go on and help other people. So I see them now as a blessing, even though at the time they certainly were not. One of the key things when you don't love yourself, one of the key things that it affects is your relationships with other people. Because every single person, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, a family relationship, a work colleague, every single person that you have a connection with is a mirror to how you feel about yourself. Okay? So when you don't like yourself, when you have low self-esteem, what happens is you draw people into your life that mirror that back to you. Right? So you end up in really quite toxic situations and bad relationships. And it's really easy, certainly it was in my case, to be a victim of that and not realise your part in the situation. That you'll feel really sorry for yourself and go, oh, if only I could meet somebody nice. Where are all the nice people? Why do I keep meeting all these horrible people? Not really realising that actually it starts with you. And certainly for me, my romantic relationships were real proof of that. I can write the handbook on bad relationships. Believe me, it's a who's who, and we shan't talk about it because we'll be here all night. So I certainly am aware that when you have a low self-esteem and you have a low sense of self-worth, it's going to reflect back at you, okay? Also, what happens is, in my experience, is that, so if you have dreams and goals and wishes and aspirations, you don't allow yourself to go for them because you don't think that you're capable of achieving them, and you don't think that you're worthy of having the happiness that would come with it. So you sabotage yourself before you even get started. So for me, I dreamt of being a writer since I was a kid. I really, because I've always loved books, I've always loved reading, and yet I didn't think that I was good enough to even give it a try. So I went and was a high school teacher instead, which led me to nearly have a nervous breakdown. But that's, again, a whole different story. When you don't like yourself, you become your own worst enemy. Anybody outside of you, any bully, any critic, any enemy that you may have, does not compare to what's going on inside your own brain. And you become your biggest block, because that your inner critic, your ego, will always tell you that you're not good enough, that you're going to fail, that you're stupid, that you're not capable, what's the point? And in that headspace, when you don't like yourself, that becomes your dominant voice. You won't listen to anything else but that, right? Which then colours your life to not making any good decisions or not being allowing yourself, like I say, to go for your dreams. And so you end up in jobs and careers and roles that, yeah, they pay the bills, but they don't give you anything else. How many of us have gone through life feeling very unfulfilled, feeling like there's something missing inside of you, that there's a hole that you can't fill? I tried different jobs, different relationships, I tried going out, I tried shopping, I tried anything I could to fill this hole inside of me, and nothing could. Nothing could, until I found my spirituality in 2010. That was a good way in kind of helping me to feel more fulfilled within myself. But there was still this sense there was something missing, a jigsaw piece that I hadn't got. And it wasn't, like I say, until I found self-love that it finally everything clicked. With no sense of direction and no sense of purpose, and it was very, very difficult. And I know categorically that I'm not the only person that feels that way. I know that there are many, many, many people out there who are drifting through their lives with no direction, no sense of purpose, feeling very lost, very alone, very miserable, but don't really know what to do about it. But because their bills are being paid, and they go to work, and the kids are being fed, and, you know, They even have a holiday maybe once a year, and they think that's what life is, and so they squash it. They bury it and think, oh well, it doesn't matter that I'm miserable, we'll just keep going, it doesn't matter. And yet, we are here for such a short amount of time. We don't actually know when our time will be up. You know, God, we pray that we all live until we're 100 and we die in our sleep, but we don't know that. You don't know. And so surely while you are here, however long your time is, you should spend it giving yourself as much care and love as you possibly can. I don't know about you, but I have tried to live my life hating myself. It doesn't work. It's painful, it's hard, it leads to really bad decisions. And so if that's the case, what is there to lose by trying to love yourself? You've got nothing to lose, and yet an awful lot to gain. No matter how you feel about yourself, you are stuck with you, no matter what you do. You can't get rid of you, right? You can try and change the way you look, and you can try and go different places or date different people, but you're still with you. You take you wherever you go, right? You are the longest and most important relationship you have in your entire life. And so shouldn't you try and make it the best relationship you can possibly have in your whole life? The way I felt about myself, and because I wasn't dealing with it, then led me to have very yo-yo effect with my body image and my appearance. I have an astigmatism in my eye, which you're now all kind of going, which one? You're all having a look. It's not very noticeable unless I'm on film or on camera, but it's something that I've had to come to terms with. Obviously they both work, so it's great, but I'm aware of it, and it's been something that has become something that I don't like about myself. And I was trying to ignore it, and it was great. And then I was on Teresa Chung's Facebook page as one of her experts. And every week I would do videos and blogs and stuff, and it was great, and it was going really well. And then this woman, out of the blue, who I didn't know, wrote 6 words that changed and put me on the floor. She said, "I pray your eye gets fixed." I didn't know this woman, didn't know her from Adam. And yet she had zoned in on the one thing that I didn't like about myself. And at first, it floored me. I was crying, and I was really like, oh my God, I'm so ugly, I'm so horrible. And then I realised, actually, it was a blessing in disguise. Because I can't stand here and preach about self-love and how important it is if I'm liking bits of myself and hating other bits. If you're going to love yourself, you've got to love all of yourself. The good bits and the bad bits. You've got to love your wobbly belly and your shaky bum and your saggy thighs and your weird eye. You've got to love all of it, because you can't pick and choose. And actually, like I say, even the bits of yourself that you don't like have their good points. My eyes work. They allow me to see. They allow me to see my children. They allow me to read. They allow me to write. They allow me to do so many things. And so I have to be thankful for them. And they may not look the way I would like it to, but they work. And so you have to be thankful for that. And my weight has gone up and down more times than I care to talk about, which has been another symptomatic thing about how I felt about myself. Because every time that I've been in a bad relationship, I've eaten my feelings, which was not a good idea. But yeah, I've come to a place now where you realise actually it's not about being a certain weight or a certain size. It's about being happy with where you are, with who you are, whatever that looks like for you. And that takes time. But you owe it to yourself to try and get yourself into that headspace. Because walking around hating yourself and wishing that you look different or you were somebody else, it's self-abuse. It really is. You're not doing yourself any favours. Trying to come to peace with who you are and making the best of what you have and who you are for yourself. So, enough of that side of the ramble. How, right? It's all well and good, Katie, you telling us how important this is, but how do we actually start to turn things around? One of the most important things for me was a technique that was originally introduced by Louise Hay called mirror work. So when I started my self-love thing, and on that bedroom floor where I sobbed and I cried and I had my breakthrough, the next day I went to work and I was like strutting, I'm loving myself, it was great, I was like Beyonce. And then at work, people were whispering, I thought they were talking about me. My trousers for work didn't fit me. I felt fat. Then I shouted at children, so I felt like a bad mother. Then I cut my hands, so I felt like a stupid what's it. So in a space of 6 hours, I went from Beyonce to Gollum who doesn't like themselves. I came home and again, my inner critic was like, look at you, you're stupid, you're fat, you can't do anything, you're going to fail at this, what's the point? And I sat on my bed in my uniform and I looked at myself in the mirror. Now normally I would run from the mirror. I would do my hair, do my makeup and go as quickly as I possibly could. But in this space, it was like I was being made to sit and I couldn't tear my own eyes away from my reflection. And I didn't know how long I sat there for. It could have been 5 minutes, it could have been half an hour. But the more I looked at myself, really looked at myself, the more I saw myself. Now that sounds a really stupid thing to say. But I saw me away from all the layers of labelling and fear and issues and anxiety and all the crap that we carry around with ourselves fell away. And I saw me for who I really am underneath all of that. I saw my light, I saw my spirit, I saw my heart. I cried because I realised that I'd been really, really unkind to myself. I even saw little me, child me, who just wanted to be loved. Mirror work is not something, again, that's a nice idea. It's so important to sit with yourself and see yourself for who you are, not who society tells you are or who you should be, or your job as a mum or a dad or a husband or a wife or a job or whatever. All of that, you're not going to take that with you when you go. Your soul, your spirit, that's who you are. That's who you are. And when you see yourself for that, then you start to realise that love is what we come from. Love is who we are, and love is what we will go back to. Love is the most important thing, and we're so busy giving it away to everybody else. We spend our whole life giving it to other people, which is great, don't get me wrong. Love is really important, but we forget to give it to ourselves. We're so busy giving it away, and we never think to turn the table around and give it back to ourselves. So when you sit in front of the mirror and you look at your reflection, undisturbed by the way, no people, no phones, just you and your mirror, and you will cringe and you will hate it and you will want to run. You tell yourself that I love you. Again, you'll probably laugh or you'll go really red, it will feel awkward as anything. But the more you do it, the more you're telling your brain this is where we are now. The more that you commit to this practice of showing up for yourself, of seeing yourself, of loving yourself, the more your brain will start to accept it, and it will take time. None of these things is going to happen overnight. I can't take you from self-hate to self-love in one day. I wish I could be a millionaire, but I can't do that. All I can do is give you the tools and say that if you keep showing up for yourself, you will be able to start make a change in the way you feel about yourself. Okay? One of the other things that you can do, aside from all of that, apart from mirror work and all of that stuff, which I've lost my list, I had a very profound moment. So after my marriage failed, I carried a lot of bitterness and a lot of anger, and not only towards him but towards myself. I really blamed myself for putting myself in that situation. And we all carry a lot of anger and pain around with us most of the time towards other people. People have hurt us, and so we feel that we are justified. We are justified to feel angry. We are justified to feel hurt because they have done that to us. It's not fair. So I'm going to carry that anger around with me for the rest of my life, and I am justified in that. The only person you're really hurting in that situation is you. When you carry around anger and unforgiveness, you are hurting yourself over and over and over again. You are drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And the only person you're hurting is you. Probably don't even care. They have probably moved on with their life. But you staying in that situation of anger, you have kept yourself stuck in a time period. So if I still felt that way about him, I would still be where I was 3 or 4 years ago. In my head, in my energy, I'd still be there. At some point, you have to realise that you have to forgive. Now, that's not condoning what they've done. I'm not saying it's okay for anyone to hurt you, because it's not, right? I'm not saying that you need to talk to them or see them. It's not about them, it's about you. It's about swapping pain for peace. for your own peace, and you deserve that. You can't really love yourself if you're holding on to all this rubbish and all this anger. It's really hard to get into a positive headspace about yourself when you're all the time. It's not going to happen. You have to let it go. I did an exercise, and I tell now everybody. This was not my exercise, it was given to me by a woman called Jolene Trister, who gave it to me, and I give it to everybody I meet now because it's incredibly powerful. You do this, you will shift things in a huge, huge way. Set aside around an hour or two, again undisturbed, nobody else in the house, no phones, just you, and I wrote a letter to him. This is a letter that he will never see, nobody will ever see it, but he can't know because it doesn't exist. This was a letter where I basically got everything out of my head. Everything. The whole experience onto paper. I wrote for an hour. I didn't worry about my spelling, my handwriting, punctuation, I just wrote. My handy fell off by the end of it. I was just like, ugh. And at the end of the hour, well, by the end of the letter, I read it aloud. And I knew I was angry, but I was shocked at how angry I actually was. There were swear words like that on the page. And once I did that, I took the letter into the garden and I burnt it to release the energy. I got some very strange looks at the neighbours, I can tell you. But I burnt it, I released all the energy up, and then once it was all ash, I put the ash into the soil to return the energy back to the earth. I then went and had a salt bath while I meditated and calmed myself down and cleared my energy. And then I wrote another letter, but this letter was to myself, affirming what I wanted for myself moving forward with I am. Because I am are the two most powerful words in the whole universe. Whatever you say after I am is what you are affirming as your reality. So you don't say I want because you're pushing it away, or I would like. You say I am. So I am abundant, I am happy, I am successful. And it was a love letter to myself, which even now is on my bedroom door. And I see it every day. But I cleared it. I still don't have the best take on my ex-husband, shall we say. But I don't have the same bile. I don't have the same bitterness that I was carrying around with me. I released it. I freed myself. And you can write those letters for anybody. Anybody that has hurt you and you are carrying that pain around with you, let it go. Try this exercise, and I swear to you, it will release it and it will free you. And once you get into that freedom, once you allow yourself to release it, it's such a powerful thing. It will really, really help you to move forward. Of course, there are other things you can do. You need to start looking after yourself more. I'm not here to tell you to eat lettuce and drink water. I don't eat lettuce and drink water. And there's a bottle of water down there, but most of the time I don't drink a lot of water. What I'm saying is you give your body what you need. And that is about balance, okay? So I'm not saying be a gym bunny, I'm saying listen to your body. Some days you will want chocolate and you will want cake. But you don't go and have a family size one all to yourself in the car when no one's looking. Was that just me? Okay. You give yourself balance. You give yourself what your body needs. You honour yourself, okay? Self-care is not all just bubble baths and massages. It is listening to your body and giving yourself what you need in any given moment. It's about having really difficult conversations with people. If somebody is being horrible to you and not showing up for you and not serving you any longer, you've got to have that conversation with them. Because when you allow yourself to be treated that way, when you say it's okay for someone to treat you that way, they're going to keep doing it. Okay? We think that suddenly it's going to be like this magic thing where they're going to read our minds and they'll know they're being horrible, so I won't have to say anything and it will all just magically work itself out. No, it won't. People don't work like that. If someone's upsetting you, you need to go and tell them that they're upsetting you. And it's really, really hard. If you're anything like me, I don't do confrontation very well. So I get myself into a bit of a headspace and I overthink and it comes this big thing in my head and it's difficult. But I know that it's the right thing for me to do. And I guarantee for you, sometimes having those difficult conversations, again, means showing up for yourself. One of the biggest things I did for myself was in 2017, I married myself. I did. Little ring on my finger. I didn't wear a white frock. I didn't go to church, nothing like that. It's not legally binding, and you can do it if you're single, married, whatever, it doesn't matter. It was about me and saying that I would never allow myself to be put in that situation ever again. That I would never allow anybody to treat me badly, that I was enough. So I wrote my vows and I want to share them with you, because if you want to move into a headspace of self-love, this is what it's all about. And I haven't shared this with a lot of people, so I hope that you just listen and you hold the space for me, because it's, I cried a lot as well when I went through this. I vow to love myself, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, for better or worse, for all of my life and all the lifetimes that are to come. I vow to always be my best friend, cheerleader and #1 fan. I vow to honour my calling and live my life as a work of art. I vow to honour my spiritual path and create an amazing life, whether I am legally married or not. I vow to comfort myself during times of helplessness, disillusionment, or any difficulty that arises. I vow to live in the faith that my life is unfolding in mysterious divine perfection. I vow to never settle or abandon myself in romantic partnerships ever again. I vow to be my beloved always and in all ways, and so it is. So I said those things to myself, and I cried, and I let all the pain go, and I gave myself a hug. And since that time, I'm not saying that, there's never moments of doubt, that there's never moments of fear, there's never moments of anxiety. The difference is that I don't stay in that place anymore. That I have the intelligence and the knowledge to understand that the ebbs and flows of life, that when I am in a bad headspace, that it will pass, and I show up for myself and I keep trying. Because the only way that you really fail is when you give up on yourself. You keep trying. Self-love is a lifelong journey, and some days you will be great at it and some days you will be rubbish at it. It doesn't matter. You keep showing up for yourself because you owe it to yourself. At the end of the book, I've written a quote, which I haven't written a quote before, but I really like it. So basically, love is not something you have to earn, it's your birthright. Stop waiting for others to give it to you. Show up in your own life, love for yourself. I have a very, very close relationship with my mum. I'm an only child, so me and my mum have a very strong connection. My dad and I, at the time of recording this, I haven't spoken to my father in a few years. It's a difficult relationship. I used to put a lot of blame at his feet for the decisions that happened in my life. I blamed him, which is unfair, because what I've come to realise is that parents are people that are just trying their best. We put our parents on pedestals and expect them to be superheroes, and they're not. And I realised that, you parent the way that you have been parented. So I have to understand his relationship with his parents and realise that he is who he is and I am who I am, and that's okay. It is what it is. I have to make my peace with it, and it's been difficult, and again it's a work in progress, but it's one of those things that at some point you have to try and face, because again you can't carry that around with you. It's not a healthy thing to do. So emotions in themselves are not good or bad. It's what we do with them that messes things up, right? So anger in itself is not a bad emotion. I don't believe there is any bad emotion. I believe it becomes bad when it's taken to an unhealthy, toxic place. And actually anger and love are two sides of the same coin, because it takes as much energy to hate somebody as it does to love them, right? The problem with anger is when it's taken into a place of fear. So if you're using your anger to do something proactive, to change the situation, that's great, because that's what anger is. It's passion to change something. But when you're holding on to anger and squashing it and making it something toxic and murky, that's when it's a problem. And if it's affecting the way you feel about yourself, then it definitely has to be released, because it's just doing you no favours. It's very hard, I think, to look back at your life and to judge yourself for the decisions that you have made in the past. But what I realise now, that's just bringing more fear energy to the table, right? So I did the best that I could do at that time with the knowledge that I had. I wouldn't make those decisions now because I know better. But yes, I sabotaged myself at every single turn because I didn't believe that I deserved any better. So example, I say I wanted to be a writer. I'd been bullied at school, so I had to get out because I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I went in, I told the story a lot, but it always makes me laugh. So I went in to the careers advisor. She came in with her clipboard, and her thing was, by the end of the day, everybody was going to know what they were going to do. And obviously everybody had, because she was quite happy when I went in. And I sat down and she said, right, what do you want to do after GCSE? And I went, I don't know. And you think I'd slapped her around the face. She went, do you mean you don't know? And I went, I don't know, which was a lie, because I did know. I wanted to write, but I didn't think I was good enough. So she said, well, you know, have you had any part-time jobs or anything like that? And I said, well, I've just been working at my mum's friend has her own day nursery. I've just done a summer working with them, helping out with the children. Nursery nursing. Go and be a nursery nurse. 10 minutes later, literally, I was out in the playground holding a prospectus to a college I didn't want to go to do a college course that I didn't want to do. But I didn't have the for me to go, excuse me, and no, I don't want to do this actually. This is not for me. I just thought, okay, this is what we're going to do then. To the point that it's a 2-year college course. I had to do 2 years loads of work in 1 year, because for the first year I didn't go. And the college lecturer rang my mum and she's like, where's Kate? I would go down to the pub. But I would continually sabotage myself because I just didn't believe in myself. I just thought, well, I can't be successful, so I'm not even going to try. What's the point? So, yeah, I've sabotaged myself over and over again. Not anymore, thank God. Thank God.